Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. Here I am on beautiful Mount Tamalpais, or Mount Tam as the locals call it. And there's an old crashed out car down here somewhere. And I'm going to try to find it. Now, I am just off of Ridgecrest Avenue, which is up there at the summit. And I'm parked at the Rock Springs turnout. This area is located in the San Francisco Bay Area in Marin County, just north of San Francisco, California. If you look behind me over this way, that is Bolinas down there. I don't know if you can see the lagoon down there. Maybe you can. And then over here we have the Matt Davis Trail. And the Matt Davis Trail is where we're going to head. And I think the car is just down there somewhere. It might even be down in those trees. Or if not, it's probably on the next ridge over, which is out of sight. So what we got to do is come down here and work our way down a little bit downhill and then catch that trail over there on the other side. So I want to tell you a little bit about this car that we're trying to find. The car came off the cliff back in the day, and we don't know exactly when. It's probably between 55 and 75 years ago. The car's abandoned, it's tumbled down the hill. And back then the cars didn't have VIN numbers, etc. So we don't know whose car it is or how it got there. The only thing that we know is that this trail that I'm on now was put in the 1970s. When they put in the trail, I believe that's when they discovered the car. So we know it's been there since 1970. That's 55 years. And it may have been there before that. We just don't know. And of course the question is, how did it get there? Well, there's two possibilities. It's right below a pretty scary curve up there. And if somebody was going too fast, they could have had a horrible accident. But what folks did is they searched in the old newspapers and tried to find a record of a severe accident, and they never found it. So that points to the other possibility, which is less exciting and less romantic, and that is that the car was at the end of its life, and some fun-loving kids decided it was worth more to shove it off the cliff than it was to try to get a used car price for it or a scrap price for it. So personally, I kind of think that's what happened. I think it got pushed off the cliff probably sometime in the 50s or 60s. And of course, back then, those old cars aren't worth that much, especially the make and model that it is, and I'll go over that in a minute when we get to it. But after the 1960s, this car would have been probably worth some money. And we have an idea of the mileage, but we don't know for sure. And we'll also talk about that if and when we discover the car. It is November in Western California. And those of you who don't know our climate, we don't really get any rain all summer. And our rainy season is from about now, November-ish, through April or so. That's why you see these grasses behind me that are just completely washed out brown. And within a month or two, all of these grasses will be lush green, and they'll stay that way till the spring, so we get to enjoy a different look. But this is what it looks like here in California. This is the ravine where the trees are that I sort of mentioned before, and the car isn't here. I actually think it's right on the trail, so I think we've got to go over this next ridge. All right, we dip into the trees a little bit on this section. It's a very different look. The hiking's pretty easy, pretty smooth trail, a little bit of upsy downsy, but not much, so it's a pleasant hike so far. So this isn't too difficult. By golly, folks, I think we found it. There she is, tumbled over, upside down, looks like. Okay, like I said, it's upside down, but if you look at this fender here, this is the front fender, the lower part, and you look at those striations there, that tells us something. So let's look around a little bit more. Okay, so if we look at the grill right here, it's in pretty bad shape, but that'll tell us something. Here's the engine sticking out over here. It's definitely going to tell us something. Oh, the engine is totally dislodged. You can see all the spark plugs busted off there, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is a straight 8, folks. And the straight 8 was used in Pontiac and Oldsmobile at this time. And here's the weird thing about straight 8s, is they're kind of considered boat anchors because they don't produce a lot of power. But the thing about them is they are very quiet and they're very smooth. All right, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, but if you look there, you can see my phone, and what I'm doing is I'm holding it under that gauge. I'm going to try to get, I have something blocking it. What is this? So I'm going to get a picture of the speedometer. Okay, quite remarkably, I was able to get my phone in there and get a photo of the odometer, and it has 38,297 miles. But there's no, well, there's tenths, but there's no, I guess it would be a seventh digit, but it's only 5 figures. So the question is, would it have 38,000 miles on it or 138,000 miles? Being that it's a junker, I almost think it would be 138, unless it was crashed during its heyday. But you have to realize that back then, people were putting maybe 3,000 miles a year on a car. That was plenty. So this car could be 10 years old and have that little miles on it. And cars were evolving so fast, it's possible that nobody wanted this old thing anymore. Either way, 138 or 38. 38, it would likely still be in good shape, so maybe they wouldn't roll it off a cliff. But then again, maybe it was actually crashed. We don't know. I just noticed, I didn't notice this before. We're looking in the back now and you can see the seats and the springs, and this right here is like really firm. It's like kind of cardboardy, but that would have been floor, kind of the floor mats or whatever. Everything else is pretty crushed. Maybe I'll get one more picture of those knobs there with my phone camera. This is the front of the engine that you can see here. There you can see the bottom of the motor, the oil pan, it's actually rusted through. And then if you look a little further back, that's the flywheel there. Another thing I noticed is there's no transmission, but the transmission could have been removed before it was thrown off the cliff. That's possible. But I think it's more likely that someone took it afterward, or it just got knocked out when it fell down the hill, and then the transmission somewhere lower on the hillside. Okay folks, the verdict is in. What we are looking at here is a 1941 Pontiac. They had names like Streamliner and Torpedo, and it just depending on the trim. I don't know which one this is. The other thing I should mention is Pontiac did something interesting around this time. I don't know the exact year. It might have been 1941. They had an A platform, a B platform, and a C platform. And the C platform was the biggest, the B was the middle one, and the A was the smallest. And what Pontiac did, which was interesting, is they offered this straight 8 in the A body. So you'd almost think, well, that would be the smaller one, and they'd take the smaller engine. It was less costly. The straight 8 engine in 1941 was a $25 upgrade, which doesn't sound like that much, but in a way it wasn't. But the new car price range for the 1941 Pontiac, depending on which body, which model, and which trim you got, was from about $800 to about $1,200. So the $25, if you put it relative to that, is a little bit more significant. But it still makes sense if you wanted a little more power, because these obviously gave you 2 more cylinders on the similar platform. The cylinders might have been a little bit smaller though, because I think the 6-cylinder was about 90 horsepower, and I think this one was 106, or I want to say 109. But anyway, here we are, 1941 Pontiac. So thanks for coming along on this little hike. It was as advertised. It's about a mile from the rock springs, a little over a mile, and it's a relatively easy hike, some ups and downs, but the trail's in good shape. So if you want to come check out the car, it's also a great hike, and you can hike farther in either direction if you want. So anyway, thanks for coming along, and until next time, thanks for watching.